So you may have noticed that I bought myself a podium. Thank you. I figured 4 years makes us kind of official, and according to the Babylon Bee, I am less of a heretic if I have an actual podium, so that's always a plus. 4 years ago, so depending on how you count days, but 4 years ago today, at about 4:30 in the morning, I was pacing around that lake right there, over on Orchard Lake Drive. And we were starting a church that day, and I had no idea if anybody was going to show up. It felt like we had a little bit of momentum, but there was no way to know. And I was nervous as all get out. We had sold everything and moved here to Louisville to start this thing, and had no idea if we would be part of the statistic that says 90% don't make it. And so it's a super exciting thing for me to be here today. So I sat down this week at 3:30 in the morning and sat at my kitchen table, and I had leftover caramel apple pie from Homemade Pie and Ice Cream Kitchen. I don't know if you've had this, but it's like the nectar of God. And I made myself some hot tea, and I sat there, and if you've ever seen the sermon Imagine Jesus, I have these imaginary experiences where I'm talking to Jesus, and that's kind of like how I conduct part of my prayer life, is I just pretend he's sitting there, and I talk to him like he's my friend. And I decided that I was instead of being nervous this year, I don't have to be nervous anymore. We're an established church. We're financially capable. People are showing up, and God's doing really neat stuff. And so instead, it was more of a celebration between me and God. And I just got to look back over the last 4 years and look and see everything that we've done. And I came up with a list, and it's not a comprehensive list by any stretch, but we started with these people. So in January of 2013, if my math is right. Is that right? 14. That's what I said, 2014. January of 2014, these people had agreed that they wanted to be a part of starting this amazing church. And that's all we had. And we had that, and we had a budget of about $60,000. And we were going to move forward and see what happened. And since that time, we've conducted right at 205 Sunday morning services. And that includes a couple Christmases that we didn't meet because it was Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, and we decided to forego services, and then we were snowed out one day. But every single week in, week out, these guys, volunteers, showed up this morning in the pouring rain to set up this new stage, and we're pretty excited about that, and a new look. But our volunteers have been faithful, the nursery workers, the children's ministry, the coffee people, the greeters, people showing up and being a part of this big deal. And it's been exciting to watch. We've learned about health, philosophy, apologetics, and leadership, and that's not all. So we've had special events where we brought in guest speakers to teach us on these incredible topics. The health, I think our health sermon, it was the most clearly visible impact a sermon could ever have. Like as a congregation, we just started watching weight pour off of people. It was really fantastic. It was called Resolutions, and we talked about New Year's resolutions and the benefits of eating healthy and exercising, and neat stuff happened. But in addition to talking about health, we've eaten a lot of chicken together. We are a church that eats together, and we're excited about that, and we're going to eat pizza today. So we've done brunch blitzes, and we've done all kinds of meals and our volunteer banquet and so forth. We've baptized dozens of people. I didn't do all the math, but it's averaged about 10 to 15 a year, which for a congregation of about 100 is pretty fantastic. We're excited about, so we believe baptism is a public declaration of an internal reality. And so when somebody is baptized, we believe they're declaring that they have become a follower of Jesus. And so it's super exciting to see people who maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, wanted nothing to do with God, nothing to do with Jesus, declaring their faithful commitment to Him. That's been exciting. We've conducted about 40 service projects, and this is everything from feeding the hungry to painting picnic tables at a children's camp and lots of stuff in between. And so we've done monthly service projects since inception, with a few exceptions, obviously. But you guys have shown up to serve the community and serve other people. Something you guys might not think about is we've facilitated about 10 weddings. I do weddings, and we've seen about 10 of those over the course of 4 years, which is really exciting. And some of these are great couples that are moving forward with God, and it's been a real privilege to be a part of their lives. We've attended 3 Q conferences. For you guys that don't know what Q is, you should seriously look up qideas.org. And it's an annual conference where the Q stands for questions. And one of the things we'll talk about later today is that at Daylight Church, no question is off the table. We're not afraid of questions. We're not afraid of doubts. We're not afraid of the tough topics. And Q is a conference that kind of embodies that. They bring in people from opposite sides of the aisle and talk about the issues. They talk about assisted suicide? Is it ever merciful, or is it always immoral? They talk about how do we as a country look at Native Americans and making restitution for the atrocities that happened in the formation and foundation of our country. These are real things that we need to be thinking about. And so it's just a very interesting conference, and we've been privileged to go 3 times. We've learned how to sous vide the perfect steak, which I don't think you can get at any other church in Louisville, is my guess. There's some sermons out there if you're wanting to learn how to do that. And we've tackled hard topics. This one's denegrification and white privilege. We did a series on race. We've talked about sexuality in here and LGBT issues. We've talked about women's rights. We've talked about money. So we try to be a church that's not afraid to talk. We've talked about hell. We've talked about the behavior of Christians that behave poorly and how does that reflect on Christianity as a whole. So we try to tackle tough topics in here, which I think is a mark of who we are, is that we're not afraid to throw this stuff out there and to talk about it. We've sent mission teams. I could think of 2. We went to South Korea and Peru. Did I miss any? Those are the 2 I was thinking of. So we went and helped a campus ministry in South Korea. You're about to yell at me. My wife's yelling at me. What's up? Yeah, we did take a trip to Memphis, and we did some work on Beale Street there. So that was and in the inner city of Memphis. And so we've done national and international mission trips. We've sent about $75,000 out the door. So we're committed to, as soon as money comes in, about 15 to 19% of all that money immediately goes out to other missions and other humanitarian service efforts and so forth. And so it's been a real one of my favorite parts of my job is every month we get to send out checks to people all over the world that are serving Jesus and serving people. And so that's been an amazing part of who we are as a church. We've loved our volunteers. So we've had a great Christmas banquet every single year. And we couldn't do what we do without you guys. I look around the room and I see all of you that do volunteer work with us. And it would be absolutely impossible to pull off what we've pulled off if it weren't for you guys stepping up and making a difference. So thank you for that. We've held about 50 groups, and they've been Q&A groups, they've been Bible study groups, they've been service project groups. We've had a group that met at a soup kitchen. We've had community groups where they get together and talk about the sermon from the last week. We've had all kinds of groups and book studies and worship sessions and things like that. And we've watched Star Wars together. We've rented out this theater 2 or 3 times and packed it full of people, both from the church, our volunteers, and from the community, just as a gift to the community. And because Star Wars is awesome. And in addition to that, we've bounce housed with Darth Vader. So Darth Vader and Chewbacca showed up at our kids' festival, which was pretty exciting. The first year we did it, we had about 12 to 1,500 people show up. The second year we did it, we were right on the tail end of a hurricane, and we had about 300 or 400 people show up because the weather was just flat lousy. But we served the community. We put our resources and our people together to make a difference. And we gave away Nintendo Switches for kids, and we put on a fest with food and popcorn and face painting and bounce houses, and a lot of people showed up that it was just a privilege to see the families that would come and say thank you. We're so excited that you had this event, and it was just a free event for the community. We fed a bunch of folk. A lot of you might not know this, but we have partnered with a ministry called Site 61, and we've provided meals for their Sunday night services for probably 2 years now, about. And they provide meals, and then on Mondays we go pack boxes and give away crates of food to people who have a hard time coming up with food of their own. And so we're putting our efforts forward to make a difference in people's lives. I think it's fair to say that we've formed some great friendships. I mean, I look around the room, and those 8 or 10 people that we started with were, with few exceptions, the only people I knew, and I adore you people. Like 96% of you, I adore you. And I feel like there are some strong friendships that have occurred as a result of Daylight Church. And in my opinion, if none of this other stuff was on the screen, that's incredibly valuable because I believe friendships feed one another. And then hopefully we've obeyed the mandate that the chief duty of man is to glorify God and to delight in Him forever. And I think we do that in here. I think God smiles on this church. I'm not in His biz totally. But when I think of who Jesus is and what Jesus is like, I feel like we have that kind of vibe. The church feels like Jesus to me. And so I hope and pray that what we do on a week-to-week basis just makes God smile, and that the difference we're making is important as far as His kingdom around the globe. And so it's just been very, very fulfilling to be the pastor of an incredible church filled with people like yourselves. I get emails fairly often from people. So what I did, I keep an encouragement file in my email folder. And so when I need to be encouraged, I just go to that encouragement file. And so Ryan, you have a separate folder, right? No, I'm kidding. In fact, you're in the encouragement file a couple times. But when I need to be encouraged, I go to that file. And so I just decided I was going to jump on there and pick the first one that popped up that made sense. Some of them wouldn't make sense to share in here, but I just grabbed one. And it said, it was an email we received. It said, "Hello, I want to let you know what a wonderful impact you've had on my 15-year-old daughter. While we've attended church regularly the last year and a half, my daughter has not grown up in the church. She has a lot of questions and doesn't have the core understanding that you get from years of children's ministry." And they say some more. And then they say, "We have both subscribed to your podcast and enjoyed it very much. She's listened to all your podcasts multiple times and can't wait until her busy schedule clears up so we can make a trip to Louisville to attend. Thanks to the work of Chris Booker and the video team and Jordan Mitchell, who set up the cameras today in Chris's absence, our sermons and our services go out, and it varies. A given video might have 100 watches. Really controversial topics would be in the thousands and even tens of thousands of watches around the Louisville area and around the world, literally. So we can gauge what countries are watching our sermons, and they're everywhere, from Finland to Thailand. And so it's a lot. What goes on in here is a lot bigger than just in here. There's a lot of people tuning in, and I hear a lot of people talking about how. Actually, let me rephrase. I'm under the impression that there are a lot of people who believe God is mad, and God is looking for a reason to crush people and looking for a reason to smite them. And I think that's fairly common teaching. And I feel like if there's a trademark of Daylight Church and what we talk about in here that people are getting turned on to, and there's lots of other voices saying the same thing, it's that God's not mad. He's not out to get you. He's looking for every reason to be your friend. He's looking for every reason to be close to you. And I just think I think it's important. When we started, people asked why another church in Louisville. There's so many churches here. And to me, that's it, is people need to hear that God's not mad. People need to hear that God's on your side and that God is for you and not against you. And there are a lot of churches saying that, but I want to be one of them, and I want to be planted here in this community saying that out loud. And so Daylight Church 2.0, we worked long and hard on the new branding and the new logo, which I'm super excited about. The new logo, we'll get into in just a second. But as we celebrate today, so I've already mentioned this, is we're going to go to Old Chicago Pizza right after this. And so everybody here is welcome for a buffet and a drink. Just go in. As soon as the service is over, if you want to stick around and help us tear down, we could use your help because we have all this new stuff that we're trying to figure out how to pack it into the trailer. And it may be pouring down raining, and so whatever help you want to give would be great. But as soon as the service is over, they'll be open at 11. You can literally walk across the parking lot to it. It's just on the other side over by Taylorsville Road. We would really appreciate you being there and to celebrate with us. If you're here and you're a volunteer, and we don't police that, we just say if you're a volunteer, and if you consider yourself a volunteer, then you're a volunteer. We have these new T-shirts, fancy schmancy little nice T-shirts out there, and we've got about 75 of them ready to go. And so just stop by the table, and we'll have that and these that all the volunteers get, because these are for first-time visitors. So the volunteers were wondering, how do I get one? This is how you get one. Today, you just go up there. Vicki, you were wondering how you get one? So,
I'm just going to give you another envelope.
all right. So you're just going to lie. I got it. So there are some sermons that we haven't hit hard enough in Daylight Church. But that was... So for our volunteers, we have T-shirts and tumblers out there. And if you're not a volunteer now, but you would like to be one, we're going to have some opportunities coming up where you can do that. Even if you're only doing it to get the T-shirt and the tumbler, that's great. We could use the labor, so it'll work. We have a new website. If you go to daylightchurch.com, it's all redone. It's all very mobile friendly. I designed the website initially, and it was kind of lousy, and the logo was kind of lousy. And so now we have had somebody really good at this stuff help us out. And so it's all very mobile friendly now. It's very clear cut and simple. We were going for simplification on a lot of this. We also have our third quarter soundtrack out. I don't know if you guys follow this, but every quarter our staff puts together the stuff that they're listening to currently. And I think in the year that we've been doing this, I've never been more excited about a soundtrack. So we really enjoy putting together our soundtrack. You go to mydaylightchurch.com and to the tab that looks like that says our soundtrack on it, and it's available on Spotify and Apple Music. And then, of course, like we've already mentioned, we've got these new tumblers, so just grab one on the way out if you're a first-time visitor or a volunteer. Let's talk about this logo for a second. And Meg Batts from Envoy Creative out of Colorado Springs is the person, and the Denver area is the person that helped us with this. So if you're looking for somebody to do that kind of design, just talk to me and I'll hook you up with her. But we spent 13 hours working on this logo and finally came to the point we were really excited about it. And so I just wanted to give you just kind of the lowdown on what we were thinking. First off, it looks like a city on a hill. And when we put the Louisville skyline behind it, it resembles that to me a little bit. Our 4 pillars, we used to have humanitarian service, apologetics and study, worship and devotion, missions and outreach. And that was very wordy and awkward to say. And so now we have just streamlined everything to service, study, worship, rest. And I think, so everybody say that with me, would you? Service, study, worship, rest. Go. Service, study, worship, rest. That is what we do at Daylight Church. We've sat down so many times as a staff and said, what does it look like to be a disciple? Like a person who follows Jesus, what traits does that person end up with? And what is the road to get them to those traits? And it's just logistically trying to figure out how do we encourage people in those areas. And we're pretty set that this is a good start. It's a good road, the daylight path towards what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. And we just believe that when you practice service, you eventually find purpose. And we believe followers of Jesus have purpose. When you practice study, you eventually arrive at knowledge. And I think followers of Jesus should be knowledgeable. When you practice worship, you encounter the topic of surrender. And when you practice rest, you end up with peace, the shalom peace of God. And so we think purpose and knowledge and surrender and peace are kind of the goals. And the path to get there is service, study, worship, and rest. And so that's what you're going to hear from us coming up for probably the next 5 years is service, study, worship, rest. Service, study, worship, rest. To the point where it might drive you insane, but my understanding is that's what good teachers do, is they just drive stuff in until it becomes second nature to you. It also looks like a sunrise over a cityscape, which I really like, and it exemplifies the 4 pillars there. But we've always kind of paid special attention to this passage out of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 18. It says, the road the righteous travel is like the sunrise, getting brighter and brighter until daylight has come. And in a moment, we'll talk about how we view rest and moving at God's pace. But we just think that God wants to unravel people's lives and take them down a particular path where things just get brighter and brighter and lighter and more clear. And so that's the whole daylight concept there. And then it's red because of Les Mis, which we all agree at this point is the greatest musical of all time. Even Kate Barron, I'm convinced she believes it deep down. I do. You do?
I've never argued that.
Oh, I thought you had. Yeah, but you like Finding Neverland, right? So maybe I just have this idea that there's something off with you. That's what it is. So there's this song called Red and Black in there where they compare these 2 colors. And there's this one line that says, red is a world about to dawn. And it is the color of the dawn. And so the logo exemplifies this rising sun over a city on a hill with the color of the dawn and a brand new day. And so that's the idea behind the logo. We've worked really hard to try to streamline things and simplify things. Churches can get really bogged down in handbell choirs and particular outreaches and different lessons and different types of groups and different service projects even where everybody's kind of scattered and going in all kinds of different directions. And there's no real clear path when a person comes into a church is where do I go next? Instead, it's just like chaos all the time. And so what we're working towards is having that our mission is also our method. So our mission is service, study, worship, rest. That people become followers of Jesus through four pillars: service, study, worship, rest. Have you guys heard that before? Service, study, worship, rest? Service, study, worship, rest. Are you familiar with that? Service, study, worship, rest? Gotcha. So we've tried to come up with a way to systematize that. And so what we've done is we've gone through each pillar: service, study, worship, and rest. And we've come up with our idea of how to do that in a systematic way. And so it's pretty neat, really, because when we started Daylight Church, we didn't really know what our identity was going to be like. Like if you went on the old website and looked at our core values, there were like 20 of them. And it was good stuff, but we just kind of had no idea the unique identity that this church would start to form. And these four sentences that I'm going to share with you, I feel like exemplify who we are as a church. And the first is that we help those who have a hard time helping themselves. I think from the very beginning, people have been attracted to this church who want to serve others and who show up when the time comes to sacrifice and to make a difference in people's lives. And so we have decided to streamline our service projects. And for this next year, experimentally, we're going to go with quarterly service projects because we think what has happened is every single week in here where there's an offer, there's something going on. And when they come that often and that consistently and that scattered, I think it's hard for people to buy in. And so we're going to focus on 4 major things this next year and trying to make those 4 major things fantastic. I mean, we're just going to try to go above and beyond to make these events spectacular. And the first is our Site 61 Thanksgiving. This is over on the far west side, the Portland area of Louisville, where there's a lot of people living in economic squalor and having a hard time filling their bellies, and they will not have a Valentine's Day feast without somebody providing one for them. And we've done this for several years now, and we're going to try to figure out a way to just take it to the next level this year. My recommendation is that we rent tuxes and we go out on the streets and invite people, and I mean, candlelight dinner. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to try to make it fantastic. So we're going to put together a team that says, how do we make this Thanksgiving feast for people on the west side wonderful? And how do we get as many people there as possible? And then we're going to pour money into it and make it happen. The second one is our Regis Woods Valentine's Day. Regis Woods is a nursing home here in town, and we every year have gone and played bingo and done food and Valentine's Day and made it a big event. But this year we're going to put together a team and say, how do we make this thing really exceptional? St. Jude's Summer Retreat. St. Jude's, many of you know, is a recovery center here in town that we have kind of partnered with and connected with. And they have a summer retreat every year, and we're going to see how we can make it like the best weekend of their lives. We're going to try to figure out a way to just make it a wonderful occasion that they just absolutely love. And then finally, and this isn't locked in yet, we haven't communicated with them. We suspect because of our relationship with them that we may be able to make this happen. But Ark Elementary School is over on Taylorsville Road, and it was a transition school for kids, disciplinary action kids for a long time, and now it has converted back to kind of a normal elementary school. But I think they need a lot of help, and so we've partnered with them. We've helped them financially. We've shown up at a few of their events, and we're going to see if we can transfer our kids festival, the Darth Vader bounce house thing, to them to do a back-to-school thing and just put on a big festival for them and just let them have a great time and give away prizes and give away food. And so we're going to do quarterly events. So here's what it comes down to is when you come to Daylight Church, we're going to ask you to do 3 things. We're going to ask you to be involved in the service project, service. We're going to ask you to be involved in a small group, study. We're going to ask you to show up at worship services, which is worship. And we're going to ask you to rest, which is nothing, which is just hang out with your friends, enjoy your family. So the study portion is that there's no question off the table. I think from the very get-go of Daylight, I tried to make that publicly known, is that we're not afraid of questions, and we're not afraid of any question. You can ask about anything, and we're happy to talk about it. And so we're changing up our groups a little bit. We're going to continue with the community group structure that we've been having, which is basically families getting together, or people getting together as a family, enjoying one another's company and talking about the sermon from the former week and getting to know each other and so forth. But we're going to go back to doing a free-for-all Q&A, and that'll be on Thursday nights, and that's a place where you can show up and you can ask anything you want to ask about anything you want to ask about. We're going to do, Laura Rennert is going to do the Purpose-Driven Life in a 6-week study. And so as Mark Twain said up here, the 2 most important days in life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. And that's what this 6-week study is about, is trying to figure out your purpose in life. We still have our community groups, and there's 3 of them, and one of them is at Sunday school time. I know several people have asked about why we don't do Sunday school, and a lot of that has to do with facilities. We just don't have the facilities to do it. And we're not sure strategically if that's the route we would want to go anyway. But we are putting a community group at that time, and we're going to have childcare for nursery age during that time as well. And so if you'd like to be involved in a community group that meets at 9 o'clock on Sunday mornings, most likely it's going to meet right here in the party room at the theater. And so you show up, you drop off your kids, you go to the community group. You don't have to have kids to be a part of this group, but that's one of them. And then we have a Monday night group, and I think the Monday night group is the only one that consistently feeds people. Is that accurate? So that's the one you want to be in for sure. And then Sundays at 6, I think they're the hip, cool kids is what I hear. That's what I've heard. And so I don't go to any of them because I'm not cool, but... So those are the offerings, and then we're also going to have a Cool Kids Club with date nights on Friday nights for 6 weeks. And so that is going to be either at the McDonald's playground, the Chick-fil-A playground, or at the Manor, which is, so for those of you who don't know what the Manor is a community house that we all bought together, that some of us pitched in, and we all bought this large place together. But you'll drop your kids off at 6:30 and come back and pick them up at 8, and they'll have a good time, and they'll do crafts and have fun and do a brief Bible lesson and so forth, and it'll give you some time to go run errands or go have a meal or whatever it is that you want to do. We also believe in worship, service, study. So the service part is service projects, the study part is small groups, the worship part is Sunday morning services and nightlight. We believe in giving credit where credit is due. We just think God is worthy of our time and effort and our energy and our worship. And so we want to encourage you to attend night lights and Sunday morning services. And then we try to move at God's pace. We've been pretty committed as a leadership team from the very beginning that we're not going to hound anybody. We're not going to twist people's arms. Some of you, maybe if you haven't shown up for a while and you wondered why you didn't get a phone call, sometimes it's because we're overly careful not to bug people. We want people to be able to come in and move at the pace they move at, and we're really comfortable with that. As far as activities that we have planned for rest, there they are. I think it's a rare church that says your volunteers need time off, and we're trying to do a better job of that. It's a rare church that says you need to skip some church activities every now and then and be with your family. And we just think that those things are important, that personal rest, personal Sabbath, personal meditation, personal retreats are very important, and we'll be talking about those more as the days go by. So service, study, worship, rest. You guys are going to hear that a little bit. Service projects, small groups, worship services, and breathe. That's our goals, and that's the simplicity of the process. That's the daylight path, and that's the direction we want to see people go. I want to continue the service with a convo with cool folks. I'm going to ask David Rudolph to come up and join me. And we do convos with cool folks every now and then, and David has a great story, and I wanted him to share it with you. So he'll be up here in just a second. I'm going to grab a couple chairs, and I'll be back with you. Talk amongst yourselves. Check, you good?
Yep, I should be good.
Oh, he's got this deep, like Darth Vader voice, and I'm going to feel really whiny sitting next to you, I think.
It'll be all right.
Okay, it'll be good. So the reason I asked David to share, David went on our Peru trip with us, and he's a relatively new follower of Jesus, a couple years, 2.5 years, something like that. And I just feel like his story exemplifies the entire reason that we ever planted a church in the first place. And so I just wanted him to share it with you, and then maybe we'll have some follow-up questions. But Dave, the story you told us in Peru about kind of who you were and what happened and where you are now, would you just share it with us, and then we can see what happens?
Yeah. All right, so when I was growing up as a little kid, my mom, she taught me about Jesus, and I knew most of the stories, but we really weren't a church family. We didn't go. Very rarely did we ever go. And so growing up, I knew who Jesus was. My father, he was a little bit of an abusive person. So as I got older, the abuse got worse. And I just kind of started turning my back on God. And, I didn't understand how could he let this happen to me. And by the time I was a teenager, I had no desire to be in a church setting. Started doing a lot of drugs. Started having sex early. And by the time I was an adult, I had completely turned my back on God. And I was just angry a lot, and I couldn't forgive people for things they had done to me. I held on to a lot of stuff. And it got to the point where,
It's okay.
Me and my ex-wife, we fought like cats and dogs. It was a horrible situation. And it got to the point where I felt abandoned by God. I felt like I abandoned my family, and I was just at a really low spot in my life, and I tried to commit suicide. And I tried to hang myself, and the rope broke. And it was just a really dark time in my life. And I still just didn't understand how God could let any of this happen to me. So I spent pretty much almost all my adult life criticizing other Christians and advocating against Christianity. And I just happened to be looking on the web one day, and I saw this video from this weird pastor talking about, let's talk about gay stuff. And I was like, well, this ought to be interesting, And I started watching it, and it turned out it wasn't that bad. And
It's the best review I've had in years.
right. It was so-so.
It was fine. It was
Right.
fine.
So I'd been trying to turn my life around because nothing was really going the way it needed to go. So things had to change. So I started attending Daylight, and it was shortly after I was able to let go of some of the hate, and just it felt good. It just felt good. And then it was kind of like I felt like Jesus was calling me. There was a lot of instances of just weird things and that normally wouldn't happen. And it just one day I came to a realization that I was kind of like his lost sheep, you know. After all the things I'd ever said and done against God, that he still wanted me. And it felt really good. And it was shortly after that I got baptized at H's house. And here we are.
So how's life different now?
Really, it's mostly I've learned to forgive people. And I just don't hang on to the hate and the regrets. I had a lot of problems trying to forgive myself, and that was the biggest part, is learning how to forgive myself.
You know, I mentioned earlier that lots of people, hundreds perhaps, will tune into this video that we'll put up online. And so there, you know, the odds are there's going to be somebody somewhere, maybe, clicking on it like you clicked on it, like who's this goofball? And
Right.
what would you say to somebody that's yourself 3 years ago?
Probably just God never forgets about you. He, no matter what you do, he's still there for you. He still wants to be in your life. You know, I look back in my life now and I realize the times that he was calling or wanting to talk to me, he was knocking on the door and I just didn't answer, you know.
You know, David and his wife Laura are like dream people as far as a pastor is concerned. They're the kind that come with their own batteries and just they show up and get stuff done and try to take things and make them better. And the very first time I met David, I don't even know if you remember this, you were walking down the hall out there and you came to shake my hand. And this is the first thing I ever remember coming out of his mouth. The first time I met him, I said, "Hey, I'm HL." He shook my hand. He said, "I tithed today, and I don't know why I did that."
And it happened to be the speech on tithing that day.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah.
The one that I've done in 3
Yeah,
years. But you did
yeah.
it before the speech.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
before.
And but they have just served God and served Jesus, and I love his heart, and you guys are just special people. And he's also so this is kind of a preaching moment. He's also coming to me regularly saying, "I feel like God is calling me. I feel like Jesus wants me to do something, and I just don't know what it is." And we've had a lot of conversations about that. But I want to pray for him, and then would you be comfortable praying for us, just briefly?
Sure,
Okay.
maybe.
Is Laura here?
Yep.
Laura, would you come up here real quick? Pray for the two of you. I'm going to start praying while you come, and then you'll be here by the time I'm done. Okay, here we go. Why don't you take David's hand, would you? Would you take David's hand? God, thanks for David and Laura, for what you've done in their lives, and just who you are to them now, and that they call you God, and that David has been able to let go of bitterness and unforgiveness. And I've just seen the peace in his life. And I pray that you would continue that process. And both of them, I pray that they would just be drawn to you and they would figure out what it is you're calling them to, and they would do it with their whole hearts, and that you would honor yourself through them. David, would you just briefly just pray for us as a church?
Lord Jesus, I just pray that everyone here sees your word, hears your word, and can try to live their life living as you want us to live. And just that we give you praise, Lord, that everything you've done for us. We may not understand the way things happen at times, but you have a master plan for us, and we praise you and thank you for everything you have and will do for us.
In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, guys. So, hey, I love you. I don't want you to walk off with a hug. That would just be weird. So, David's story to me makes everything worth everything that we've done. To see, and there's actually more to the story than he shared as far as like where he came from. Didn't you used to vandalize churches? Didn't you tell me that at some point? You try to leave try to leave details out of it. And so it's just exciting to see peace coming to a person who had no peace. And if there's anything that we can be excited about in this church, is that we see some of that. And I'm just going to pray that we would experience more of that as we grow as a church.